Right, hello everyone. I've changed uh, the schema from the last time slightly, and I have added this block there, which is the expectation block, then, right? And the important thing there is the analogy between artificial neural networks training and actual human beings and their training and their education and stuff like that. So let me remind you what artificial neural network training consists of. So we have a model. Here we've got our input, and here we've got our output validation mechanism, let's say. So what happens? Input information gets into our model. Oh, let me draw it a bit bigger, so I would add some details there. So a model is like that, and it has neurons inside, right? Neurons inside, and information goes through neurons with, let's say, existing weights uh, in the beginning with random weights, and then it gets the result, and then we calculate the result, the the error rate, and if result was bad, we send that information back to neurons, asking them to adjust their weights, punishing them that the output was not what we expected, and next information block gets into a model, and the cycle repeats. And this whole thing called epoch, and we have to run a lot of them in order to train the model. So roughly they've done the same with LLM models, but the principle is the same. So they've got something as a validation of result in the output, and then they run through the LLM model the question, and they roughly know the desired output, and then they compare with desired output, and if it's out of whack, then the mathematical function is changing weights inside of the model. So hence it's so expensive, because they have to run it a million of times in order to make model work. Now, in our case, what we've got is the motivation. Motivation is the information we are adding into a system. Then action is the actual information processing. Then action is generating a result for us, and a result is it what we expected or not, and if it, like, it depends. If that's what we expected, we're getting euphoria, otherwise we're getting frustration, right? Frustration. And that's the same that, like, reward punishment elements in our system. So that prediction error happens, then uh, we shift our worldview based on what we got out of the result, and the next feeling is happening based on our need. That, let's say, we are in the same cycle of learning something, for example, and then again we form our expectation, which is going to be used there later in order to compare, are we alright or not. So the difference with previous schema is just this element there, which wasn't there. It's just expectation. Expectation is our virtual environment, which is motivating us to do certain actions, and expectation is building the path for motivation. So this is like future reality uh, uh, in our brain, and we expect that if we how complex this action there, then the real reality is gonna be equal our future reality, and so on and so forth. And more we do, and so on and so forth. So that's that. Okay. Subject today is slightly different. So just a reminder from the last time, the important concept of that. But let's go down there. Okay, let me part B, and I think this is important to understand in the following way. But let me read it through first, what I've written there, and then we go further. So our part A, build the loop, predicted shift, feeling, expectation, motivation, action, result, prediction, error, and so on, and an agent at the center that emits 4 of those and takes delivery of 3. It's ended on a mismatch. The loop assumes a closable gap, and the market never closes one. And I get to markets a bit later. Now, the 2 things part A set up and did not spend. First, how old the machine is, which turns out to change who you think is in charge. And then the payoff, seeking fear, rage, grief, care, lust, and play, basic emotions by Panksepp, which we described 1 per week, and as though they were 7 parameter systems, are 1 system failing in 7 different places. Okay, so that's that. Right. And what important to understand here is that if system is ancient, and you see what I mean, so 4 billion years of the same machine, none of this is recent, and the order in which the parts arrived explains a great deal about which part loses the argument. A bacterium holding an ion gradient against its environment is running the loop with no nervous system whatsoever. A reference state, a deviation, a correction, no feeling required. Well, I mean, we are assuming that bacteria doesn't feel anything, but how do we know? We don't do it, right? Maybe the feeling mechanism itself and the agency of the live creature is slightly different than we got used to think about. Like, for example, we are convinced that nerves are the sort of antennas to our conscience, but we don't know, right? So that's controversial statement in it. No feeling required. Let me underline it. No feeling required. So this is roughly 3,800 million years old, like 3,800,000,000 years old, and it is the whole logic already complete. Yeah, what that means is, again, that bacteria itself is getting into a loop where it's got like iron there and it doesn't want to lose it, and the locks membrane to keep it in. To keep it in here, right? So it wants to have it, right? It doesn't want to lose it. So that means like bacteria feels the greed for this iron there, right? So this is what I mean. Neurons around 700 million years ago did not invent the loop. So again, neuron is just got out of bacteria. So there were bacteria with RNA first, then more complex creatures appeared, like amoebas, for example. They've got DNA, but it's just a one-cell organism, and then they got in colonies, and then colonies become multi-cell organisms, where a cell has specificity. So that's that. Okay, let me. Where did I stop? Neurons, right? bilateral nervous systems around five, or like half a billion years ago, made it directional approach and avoid, which is the first thing worth calling behavior, right? So what that means is that worm, which let's say flatworm, bilateral, which has two nervous stems where the color eyes are there, right? He liked something, like he didn't like something, and he wanted to travel, on a surface of the some puddle, so to speak. And he liked when it was warm, didn't like when it was cold. So what that means is he felt something, and those nervous cells in there were transmitting signals, making feeling possible. And feeling itself is the foundation for the action and foundation for the expectation. Again, what I'm trying to say here is, and again, this is very important part there, that expectation itself. Where's my schema? Let me get back. Right, getting back there. So important part of that, the expectation there is not that our fantasy, that like for example, I do expect to be rich, right? Rich, and that's my expectation if I'm gonna work hard and so on and so forth. The expectation there is the desirable state of the agent, right? That's the definition. So desirable state of the agent, right? So that's the definition. And desirable state of the agent could be derived out of our neurons, like our fantasies, but also could be brought to life through genes, because genes are coding particular reactions to particular stimuli. And let's say we've got absolutely autonomous system, our beloved flatworm, and it got cold and tries to escape cold towards warm, right? Towards warm place, right? Warm place. Hence the name is warm. And it feels this part of the body gets cold stimuli, right? This part of the body got warm stimuli, and it doesn't think. It's just like, okay, I have to go there, and this desirable state, right? So warm, to be warm is a desirable state, but it doesn't think about it. It's just in genes, right? And that's the expectation. So the expectation for this particular warm to be in a warm place, right? Warm to be in a warm place, and that's the genetic defined desired expectation, and the action then later follows and so on, right? So that's that. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Okay, then the vertebrae, hypothalamus and periodictal gray, around 500 million, gave the loop dedicated channels, the 7 systems, the hardware we've spent 7 weeks on. Mammals, around 200 million, added the social channels, care, play, and distress. But again, care and play, like I'm not sure about play, but I think let's talk about care first. So we've got parental care, right? Parental care. And what's the expectation there, so to speak? Expectation is live and healthy offsprings. That's genetic expectation, which is inbuilt into a normal creature, normal mammal, lizard, whatever. Well, I'm not sure about lizards, but let's say they've got parental care as well. Birds do. So this is by definition live and healthy offspring And that means if reality is showing you opposite of that, your offspring are dead, or they're not healthy, or they're not happy, and so on and so forth, you are getting frustration, right? And if everything is good, then you are getting the reward, euphoria. Oh, my kids are so developed, and so on and so forth. So, but basically, the system is the same. It's just like frustration is pain, right, and reward is pleasure. But because you're using different blocks and there are different objects, and other objects supposed to feel in particular way, so the complexity rises, but the building block is the same, so you've got built-in expectation. Okay, so mammals around 200 million are the social channels, care, play, and the distress separation. The cortex that narrates all of this, and the language it narrating, arrived in the last 2 million years. Yeah. Okay, so I've got a ruler here. Let me put a ruler, which is giving you the understanding where we are. Okay. Is it like that? Right. So as you can see, the loop itself with the bacteria started really long time ago, 300 billion years ago, right? Yeah? 300 billion years ago. So you can see hypothalamus and the gray area 500 million years ago. So that means the loop appeared there, and it was just like developing and improving with generations, like billions of trillions, whoever knows how many generations of live creatures. And but the loop remains the same. So expectation, action, reward, error, reward, error analysis, reward, punishment, and the cycle repeats. And those ones who didn't like follow the cycle, they dead, and we are happily alive. So human, everything human 500 million, 500 years ago, or million, 10, 10 yeah, I think that's there. So, hang on, what is there? So, approach and avoid 500 million years ago. So, if you don't like somebody, you want to avoid them, that mechanism is quite old, like 500 million years ago, and not only you, but all insects and those like dinosaurs and all others were also using it. So it's quite a powerful tool in it. So the top ruler is logarithmic. Each step is a tenfold decrease in age, because nothing else fits 4 billion years, right? So further we go, the larger the scale, right? So here is, let's say, I don't know, a billion, then 2 billion, then or vice versa. Sorry. So it's gonna be like 3 billion, 1 billion, 500 million, and so on and so forth. So further it goes to the right, the smaller the scale. But you get the idea how old the system is. Right. Okay. But log scale is generous to the recent. So the bar underneath shows the same span to true scale. 500 million years ago sits near the right hand end, and the entire human era is just agriculture and writing and exchanges and screens. It's just hairline. Yeah, and screens hairline of a hairline, if you get what I mean. Okay, so let's go to the further thing. Right, hairline. That would be fun, wouldn't it? So, see, with the proportions, the machine is 3.5 billion years ago. The emotional channels are 500 million, 500 million. The part of what that reasons about them is 2, and the environment you are asking to work in is like whatever, very small. The story layer is the newest and thinnest component in the stack, and it is the part you think of as you. The part of you that reasons is the youngest thing in the room. It arrives to find the machine already running, and it has never once been in charge. Right? So, 7 ways to jump. Here is the payoff, and it is the reason this course was arranged the way it was. So, every one of the 7 systems in the loop breaking at a different leg, not 7 mechanisms, 7 failure points on one mechanism, which means the list you have been memorizing was never list. Okay, I've got another schema, and I hope it's not gonna change in the future. But yeah, but the chances for that is low, despite a hope for that, right? Okay. So what we've got here is again the agent, the reference, like the responsible part. So I got a feeling, the expectation, and let's say the grief when you lose someone. So no relief is possible, then frustration goes straight away, right? Frustration goes straight away. But also people are saying that the feeling of grief is similar to when you've got a wall, and behind that wall there is a tasty meal, but you can't get it, and you feel the same, and you feel that like you really want to eat it, but you can't. And no wonder, because all our billions of evolution, or billions years of evolution, are about food. So when we're deprived, we don't feel happy, do we? Okay, then motivation seeking. So we're just getting endless motivation to do something, to seek, to gather new information, and hence there is no like error, prediction error, results. Nothing is like that there. So it just like this starts and never ends, and this action goes and goes and goes and goes, right? Well, let's say probably action goes to the action, and it goes and goes and goes, never ends, and hence they get out of the loop. Now, rage is when we want to move to the result, but we are blocked, and hence we are getting rage. So, for example, we decided to don't know, find something, or we see something we want to take in, somebody is on our way, and we have to fight them. So road rage, for example, you got expectation that you're gonna go with particular speed, wherever, then somebody appears in front of you, and you want to continue your action of moving forward, but you can't because of some some granny goes to a church, and then you feel rage, but you have to suppress it. You can't really hit grannies, can you? Yeah, at least if you are normal. Now, next one is you got your motivation, you got your expectation, you got your motivation, you got your action, and then you start getting results. And well, I'm not sure. Lust and play, we get to that later. So we get the error, and to shift the prediction, we can fear something. So, for example, we do something, and we help our children to grow. We develop them, and then we see that they're not learning as we expect them to learn, and we start fearing about their future, that nobody's gonna employ them, they're gonna be useless, or they even damage our social status in a community, and so on and so forth. So here we're getting fear, but emotions are appearing to the agent in the same loop, but with different conditions, right? So that's the new schema. So you're going further. I'm gonna be reading now about emotions, what I was writing earlier. Okay, so seeking breaks at motivation, the pull with no terminator, because arriving is not a state the system recognizes. It was built to keep an animal moving through a world where the next thing was always worth finding, and it has no representation of enough. Yeah, like worm is always moving somewhere. Fear breaks at the predicted shift. The loop opens on the forecast rather than the deviation, which is correct and useful when there is a predator, and renews when there is only a maybe. An alarm that fires on anticipation cannot be switched off by the absence of an event, because absence is not evidence. IQ? What IQ? IQ 9. 9. Okay, two other emotions. Right. Get that. Rage. Okay, rage. Rage breaks at action. The move is available in principle but blocked in fact, because the obstacle sits above you in a hierarchy you cannot climb. The status gate permits discharge only downhill, so pointed at a market circuit has no exit that in a loss. Yeah, because like open the position, you can't close it because it goes not in a way. Grief breaks at expectation. The feeling is intact and enormous. The gap is reported at a full volume, but no expectation of relief can form, because the state being defended has been made permanently unreachable. So the loop stalls one stage before the pull. That is why grief does not feel like fear or anger, which both come with an urge attached. Grief is the machine running at a full power into a leg without nothing in it. It is the only one of the 7 where the correct move is to stop trying, and reason is the instruction is hard to follow, is that machinery has no setting at all. Okay, moving forward, and I've got so care, lust, and play are always right. Those are important emotions, aren't they? Okay, this is also where learned helplessness leaves, which closes a loop. We open it in RQ10. The 4th exit from the status gate was repeated. Inescapable thwarting, collapsing into flatness. Now we can say what collapsed, not the feeling and not the reference, the expectation. Yeah, you can't expect that like that person is gonna arise and talk to you. Enough turns where nothing you did closed the gap, and the leg that converts discomfort into movement stops being populated at all. Care runs the loop with another person's state at the reference, so your comparator is now measuring a gap you cannot directly act on, and your body budget is spent defending a set point that is not yours. Lust put the action leg outside your control. The reference requires another party to cooperate. No, not always. So the one leg the agent is supposed to own is the one it cannot close alone. Yeah, play. Right, get into play. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Right. Play is the strange one. It holds the gap open deliberately. Play is the loop run with the stakes removed, a gap invented for the pleasure of closing it. Yeah, it depends. Maybe there are different closings without much pain or euphoria about learning we are getting out of play worth it, which is exactly why it is the first thing to disappear when the budget is in deficit. Yeah, when you're stressed, you don't play, do you? An animal under real load cannot afford a fake gap. And notice the structure and the figure makes visible. 4 of 7 break on the rim at the stage fear, at the forecast, grief at the expectation, seeking and motivation, rage at action. Those are failures of of a step, and each has its own tell and its own remedy. The remaining 3 break the hub. At the reference itself, because care, lost, and play do not jam a stage at all. They run their whole loop correctly with something other than your own state in the reference slot, which is why they feel categorically unlike the other 4. They are not failures of a step, they are change in what machine is for. Right? 1 machine, 7 marks. You were never learning a list of emotions. You were learning 7 places a single loop can jam. Right? So, yeah. Okay. And which leg is broken? This is what the diagram is for, and it turns 15-week course into one question you can ask in 5 seconds. You are down on a position and you want to add to it. Analysis says one thing, your hand says another. Instead of asking whether the trade is good, a question your loop will happily answer in whatever direction closes the gap. Ask which leg is driving. Right? So, hang on. So what we've got here is, come on, refresh. Yeah, but there's nothing but to be a bit emotional, isn't it? As long as it doesn't harm your P&L. Right, okay. So, is the pull towards more with no version of enough in it? This is the motivation leg with no terminator seeking. The tell is that no number you name in advance would satisfy when you got there. And this is about overtrading, when you're sitting and doing, okay, I have to like make money by trading, and you're trying to find where to trade, and you see relatively okay setup, and you open a position. That's a seeking thing, and you can open 10 positions and so on and so forth, but like you don't know what's going to happen, so it's just like seeking. Especially it's bad when you don't have a setup, but again, if you've got a setup, nobody knows is it going to work or not, or maybe you just think it's a setup, but that's the sign of seeking emotion. That means there is nothing on the horizon, so you don't foresee any results apart from how to get rich quick. You are acting on something that has not happened. This is the loop opening on a forecast, fear. So the tell is that the feeling arrived before the information did, and it will not clear when the thread fails to disappear, right? So for example, as a losing position, your dollar cost average to it, and you don't know when it's gonna stop going not in your way. So that could be that, right? Are you trying to make the market yield? That's the blocked action leg, rage. So for example, you just closed position, which is like minus X dollars, and this minus is just something market owns you, because the expectation was plus Y dollars, and that didn't happen. Right, let me rewrite it. So in our loop, so we had expectation was plus X dollars. The result was minus Y dollars, right? So, but because you were expecting to get something, you get rage, and you think about it and you try to act based on that. Again, should I get back to the schema? Hang on. Yeah. Let me get back to the schema. I'll explain what I mean. Right. So that's that. Where is it? Where is it? Brand new picture. Okay. A bit bigger. Right. Yeah. So what happens? The expectation here is plus X dollars, right? So this is our aim. We want to get rich. Now, motivation action action open the position, and we get minus Y dollars there, right? So it doesn't go straight away there. Instead, what it does is it just creating another expectation, right? That your goal was blocked. Goal blocked, and the agent is feeling rage. How could you, right? And this rage is creating another motivation to do more stupid actions, right? So that's that image, right? So we're going further interesting part. Rage, the break. Okay, let's get that there. Right. Microsoft is trying to deprecate this whiteboard. What I'm going to do without it. Interesting, isn't it? Two habits, and both are cheap. Name the leg out loud. Putting a feeling into words re-engage the cortex. The same move IQ used against the alarm and IQ10 used against the fire, now generalized. But the name the mechanism, not the mood. This is the motivational leg with no terminator, not I'm being greedy. The moral vocabulary invites an argument you will lose. The mechanical vocabulary just describes a machine, and the machine can be watched without being defended. And that's the highest, in my estimation, way of self-reflection. When you sort of analyze your feeling, you understand why they are there. You understand what was the reason for that feeling, and you understand. So if you just feel it but you don't act as it asks you, then you're sort of invincible. You know what I mean? This is what all those philosophers and Stoics are talking about. Emotion. You have to control your emotions. You have to sort of don't listen to them, and so on and so forth. But like, look, it's not easy, innit? You can't really control, especially if we didn't articulate the mechanisms beforehand. Yeah, get rid of rage. Yeah. How? What to do? Just don't feel it. Yeah. Good luck with that. Defend the budget because it's the reference. This is the unglamorous one, and it is not a wellness footnote. Sleep, food, and load are the set point for the whole loop is protecting. Run them down, and you have not merely made yourself tired. You have lowered the firing threshold on all 7 channels simultaneously. Yeah, so when you think about them, you think about causes, and like frontal cortex that's firing words about it, the emotions are going down, and the break. Oh, I have to repeat that as well. So Emotions, if there's a brainstem, right, and here, let's say hypothalamus somewhere, and here we've got our frontal cortex on the top. So that thing starts firing as mad, right? When we are emotional, rage, lust, greed, whatever. Now, frontal cortex is designed to sort of slow it down, but in order to slow it down, it has to have a structure, and articulation is that structure, because this one goes there, this one goes there, this one goes there, but because the neurons there do not have any connections, let's say, they can't really get together in order to sort of push it back. Now, if you start thinking about it, articulating it first, like the some of the brain energy goes up there and spent there, so less energy for the bottom part, and also those connections with wording are making sort of walls there, so impulses cannot go too far. Yeah, that's like rough explanation, but you get. I hope you get my point. So once you start talking to yourself, you start naming the emotions. You start analyzing. Okay, I'm feeling that emotion because of that, and that. And if I do this as emotion asks me, then that's gonna be a problem. So better I just keep feeling it, but not doing what it asks me. And this is, I think, what those Stoics were pointing at. But they didn't learn neuroscience, did they? They couldn't really know about those brainstems, hypothalamuses, and so on and so forth. Okay, hang on. Right, let's go and see what I've got today. Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of a man are never satisfied. Yeah, reframe. Not a moral failing, a speculation. The eye was built unsatisfiable on purpose, because an animal that could be satisfied would stop and die. Final. What we've got in our final part. Everything in this course is one machine. A gap opens, a gap is felt, the feeling becomes a pull becomes a move gets scored, and the score moves the gap. Ego was the loop defending a story about itself. Yeah. The 7 systems are the same loop with 7 different things in the reference slot, jamming in 7 different places. There was never a list. There was only ever this. Yeah, because the same brain, and it just stops on different stage of the action. And the loop is not the problem. It is the reason anything happens at all. The reason you got out of bed, learning anything, loved anyone. The problem is narrower and stranger than defect. You have taken a machine that assumes gaps, can close and point it at the first environment in history engineered that they never do. That's about trading. That's about trading. So this week, catch the loop and the name leg and yeah. So important part about trading again. I'm gonna get back to my image there. Right, and explain why it's a problem for trading. So okay, let me check that. Right. Okay. Right. So what we've got here is our expectation is like plenty of cash. So that's our expectation there. Then we got the motivation to open the position, opening a position and then having a result. Let's say we got liquidation, right? That's the error. Now, do we know why? Yeah, the position was too big. We didn't wait for a setup, so on and so forth, right? Okay. Next time, our expectation is the same, but now setup is good, information is okay, right? And we got the bad result again, minus dollars, right? Do we know why? It's interesting. Okay. Then next thing happens. We get into position, motivation to open it. Oh, come on. Motivation, open it position. The result is plus dollars, right? We got it. Setup, let's say, was there and something else was there and so on. How can we define was it lock or not? And we can't. And we simply can't. Do you know what I mean? So even if this loop happens 5 times in a row, and we think our analysis is right and so on and so forth, it still could be lock. So the idea here is to have the appropriate expectation. And our expectation, of course, like as I said earlier, the formula of speculation is as much money as possible, limit towards zero, delta t as time, so the shortest period is possible, and lim zero risk. So that's the parameters we're aiming for. So we want to get rich, fast, and we don't want to risk. So that's the goal. That's the formula of speculation, and our expectation is based on those parameters. However, they are in contradiction with each other, if you got what I mean. And the complicated story about trading is to build up proper expectation, define own so I can't write, can I? Own greed, own fear. The greed is how much we want and how quick, and fear is how risky we are getting, and that's the expectation thing. So once our expectation is in place, then we got a proper motivation there, and our action is always optimal for our trading strategy, and then we get the result, and we see like either our P&L grows or falls, right? And based on that, we correct our parameters there, greed, fear, and so on and so forth. And I'm writing the LLM module for that, so it's going to help us to define how to trade, right? So that's that. I hope that this is clear. Oh no. Okay, and in final, what I've got else to tell, the loop feels like wanting it is arithmetic, 4 billion years old, doing exactly what it was built to do. So next time, what's going to happen next time? Next time, when the loop runs one path so many times it stops needing feeding at all, when the gap, the effect, and the choice drop out of the action remains, the cheapest and most dangerous thing your brain can build: habits. yeah, habit, but yeah, but habit has own drawdowns. Right. For those who are interested, what kind of papers were used for that, I've got sources. I'm gonna post it there, so you can, if you're inclined enough, you can sort of pause and read. Right, more. Right, read that. Right, paragraph 3. Look, that's a lot. Yeah, right, main private. I send you the reading list, but it's all that. So I hope this makes things more clear, and see you next time in our neurobiological endeavor.